it's Miranda. Welcome back to my channel, and if you're new, welcome to my channel for the first time. Subscribe, become a member of the Slash Squad, yay! This morning I did an Instagram live video for the first time, and if you're not following me on Instagram already, that's my handle, same as everywhere else. And it was so much fun, but what I did was a little bit something different than just your typical tutorial, but I actually did a palette battle, I guess you could call it. I was going through some old press packages and I found this beauty. This is, what is it called? This is the Marc Jacobs Style Icon number 20 About Last Night palette. And let me just tell you, it is gorgeous. I found this and I was just like, this may be the prettiest palette I've ever seen. It's got neutrals, it's got pops of gold, it's got some ballet pinks in here. It was really, really nice and I wanted to test it out. But this is $100. $100! Yeah, this is definitely something that would be a hard decision to make if it were me in the store buying it, because that's a lot of money for a palette. We're looking at 20 shades here. That's basically paying $5 per shadow, and they're pretty average size pans. So I wanted to know, why is this $100? So what I decided to do in my Instagram live video, in case you missed it, was I did one eye using this Marc Jacobs palette, but the other eye using the Morphe 35W palette. That is the look that I'm wearing now. Can you guess which one is which? I matched the colors as closely as I could because the colors in both of these palettes are pretty similar. They have like the warm browns, the taupes, a little bit of gold here and there. So let me zoom in. I'm going to show you both eyes and maybe you can guess in the comments below before I reveal. If you didn't know that I used two different palettes for this look, it wouldn't have even crossed your mind. Okay, so I did this eye, eye A, with the Marc Jacobs palette, and this eye B, with the Morphe palette. So I'm going to talk a little bit about these palettes, a little bit of a comparison to see if you can save $80 and just buy the Morphe one to get similar looks. So first of all, I believe I've used this Morphe palette in a few tutorials. It is my absolute favorite from them. It does include a lot of warm colors, but honestly, I feel like it's a good mix between warm and cool. We've got a lot of nice browns, smoldery colors, but then we have like these pops of purple and pink and gold and champagne. And it's just a very, very easy everyday palette that you can also bring into night super quick. A lot of people here on YouTube use Morphe in their tutorials, so you're probably familiar with how they perform. They're fairly pigmented, they blend easily, and just the range of shades for the amount of money that you're paying. Like I said, this is a $20 palette, I want to say, and you're getting 35 shades in this palette. Meanwhile, we have the $100 Marc Jacobs palette where you are getting 20 shades, and yeah, it's kind of insane. Again, you have a lot of neutrals in this palette, but you do have more kind of pops of interesting shades like this ballet pink. We've got like a purpley silver, a blue silver, and we've got a lot of nice shimmer shades here. This gold is insane. First of all, I feel like a lot of what you're paying for is the packaging itself. I will not disagree that this is probably the most beautiful and elegant palette itself that I have ever held in my hands. It's very, very sturdy. It's plastic, but I mean, like, I feel like this thing can take a rattling, like if you throw it in a luggage or something. And it does have like this latch closure, so I would not worry about this opening on its own if it was in a bag. And I really, really love the slimness, very travel friendly, and it's got a beautiful large mirror there. Oh, hello. Very large mirror, very easy to do your entire face of makeup just using this mirror in general, so I would definitely take this traveling with me. Now when I was doing my eyeshadow for this look, I used it on this eye, I did notice that it was very pigmented. These shades are no joke. They are actually very pigmented, and it was something that I was, you know, curious about, because if I'm going to be paying this much for an eyeshadow palette, I don't want to be sitting here spending 10 million hours building up color, you know what I mean? And I feel like you end up doing that with some high-end shadows. You're just paying for the name, but I will admit that this is not one of those situations where you're just paying for the designer name. You actually do get some pretty good shadows in here. Now there is a downfall to having shadows that are as pigmented as these, and that is blending can be a little bit more difficult, because I did go for a cut crease today. When I was doing the cut crease on the side with the Marc Jacobs palette, I usually start by kind of outlining where I want my crease and then blending upwards. So when I started blending upwards, you could still very distinctly see the line that I did outlining the crease even after blending. Whereas with the Morphe palette, it blended really easily so that I got that cut crease look, but you're not seeing like line, lid shade, transition shade, you know what I mean? So I'm gonna go ahead and do some side-by-side swatches of the shades that I use in this look and any others that I think are really similar, and then we can come back here and talk about the conclusions. So here is the transition shade that I used from the Marc Jacobs palette. And this is the transition shade that I used from the Morphe palette. So it's a little bit warmer, a little bit lighter, but still very similar, and they're both shimmery. The Marc Jacobs one is a bit more shimmery. Here is the cut crease shade that I used from the Marc Jacobs palette. It's like a dark, warm charcoal color. And here is the cut crease shade I used from the Morphe palette. It's about the same shade, but definitely less pigmented. Here is the lid shade I used from the Marc Jacobs palette. That is just freaking gorgeous. It's like liquid rose gold or something. And then here is the lid shade I used from the Morphe palette. It is a little bit more rosy, but those are maybe not rosy, but more like goldish orange warm, but very close indeed. But you can see how the Marc Jacobs one's just a little bit more dimensional. Here's another similar shade. This is the Marc Jacobs palette. It is like a dark purple. And here is a similar one from the Morphe palette, and it's still a dark purple, but again, a little bit warmer and more of a plum. This is a good all-over lid shade. It's just a nice cream color. That's the Marc Jacobs. And here is the Morphe. In this case, it's a little bit more pigmented. Here's a sparkly taupe from the Marc Jacobs. And here's a similar sparkly taupe from the Morphe. Very similar. Those are probably the closest we've found so far. So in conclusion, first of all, if you really like the look that I did, you can totally do both eyes with the Morphe palette, and I feel like it would look so freaking similar. The only difference that I saw really is that the rose goldy shade that I used for the lid is a tiny bit more dimensional with the Marc Jacobs shade, where it kind of has a little bit of a shift to it, whereas the Morphe one is just rose gold, like no matter how it catches the light. I also feel like the Morphe palette may be a better choice for those who are makeup beginners or maybe aren't as confident in their eyeshadow skills, because I found it to be just a tiny bit easier to blend because they're a little bit less pigmented. So you can build up and kind of feel out your comfort level as opposed to being, you know, slapped in the face with a lot of pigment and then you're like really blending out. And while I will say that I would never purchase this for myself because it's a little too rich for me, I'm glad that I have it, and I would be really stoked if someone got me this for like a holiday or a birthday. So it's definitely a wish list luxury item. And the fact that the shadows themselves are great. You're not just paying to say you have a Marc Jacobs eyeshadow. The quality itself stands on its own. Is it $100 worth? But either way, at least it's not a complete waste of money. If you like comparison videos like these, hit the thumbs up button and let me know what you would want me to compare next in the comments below. If you haven't already, please hit the subscribe button. I'm so close to 10,000, I can taste it. Become a member of the Slashed Squad. I make new videos every week, and I hope to see you in my next one. Bye!